Professor Olorode. Now that we've talked about leadership and the issue, and it seems that naturally that has now dovetailed into the discussion on restructuring. I don't know if restructuring is the word to use for it, because there are so many people who quarrel with even the use of the word restructuring.
The definition.
With the definition and all of that. But obviously, it seems as if there's a general consensus that something needs to change in the way Nigeria is being governed, whatever it may be called. When we come to it, when we come to the nitty-gritty of it, Mr. Wazirike mentioned that this is the longest period of uninterrupted civilian rule, because again, people will quarrel as to whether it's democracy or civilian rule. Where we are today, from there going forward, legally speaking, we can't do anything outside of the Constitution, no matter how much we disagree with our Constitution. What's the way forward?
Well, first of all, I think it's very important to allay some fears. People notice a sense of trepidation across the country. And that is why you have some argument for restructuring. If you don't want to call it restructuring, you can say repackaging. Yes. Or I understand you use the word reconfiguration.
Reconfiguration. Well, I did it. Professor Soyinka did.
Yeah, but I think the bottom line is that almost every section of the country is not satisfied with the present status quo. That is given. And I think across the board, you can also say that most Nigerians prefer to have Nigeria the way it is. Not many people are clamoring for decimation of the country. But I also suspect there's some blackmail somewhere. Some people are blackmailing those who are clamoring for restructuring, that what they are asking for is that Nigeria should, be divided into various components. I don't think any rational being in this context, but I think as long as the need to reconstitute the country is in terms of the power, the way power is shared out, people are saying that, look, Nigeria, you cannot remain static. You cannot say you want to be in defense of the status quo. Let us benefit. Look, every country in the world that is multilingual, that is poorer, that has multi-ethnic, most of them, whether you talk about India, you talk about Australia, you talk about Switzerland, they have not unitary constitution, but federal constitution, because that is the way to go. Most of the countries that have the kind of features that we have in Nigeria, there's no point reinventing the wheel. There's no way you can go through the way of unitary constitution. And there's nothing like true federalism or forced. You have to go the federal way. Look at India, look at Australia, look at Canada, look at the USA, for example, like the city of New York, for example, which has a population of close to about 49 or about 40-something million. It's the governor of New York State that appoints the commissioner of police and is responsible to him. So that's just one area. Then when you look at the structure, there's no need for you to list the local government in your constitution. It's not going to work, and it's not working. It's all over the country. Local government workers are being held, but they are not creation of the state. Why not allow the state to take control? So in the federal system, you have only two centers of power. You have the federal, then you have the state or the region. Then you can now decide if group of states in the northeast, in the northwest, or north central, or southwest decide to have all the states together. What's the point having 6 commissioners like in the west? West was governed before, the north was governed before, but you have one just premier, you now have multiplicity of governors. And you have multiplicity of administration, and you have to be paid. And that's a drain on your resources. And now with what is happening in the oil sector, though the things are getting more and more, you have to reduce the size of the bureaucracy. So I believe that we can borrow best examples from all over the places. We don't need to start all over again. Look at the countries, which country is going to work the best for. What you want is governance. Even though the times have changed, but the challenges of governance have not changed at all. People still need to feed, they need to eat, they need to be secured. Which is the best level of government where this can be best done? Sit at the federal. So the essence of federalism, in theory and practice, is to make for effectiveness and competition. Is your federalism making you to be competitive when you have to go to Abuja on a regular basis to get something from the central government? Federal government, definitely as it is today, has to shed some weight. There has to be some shedding of weight to this, so that people, you can have other centers where people can look up. Instead of everybody going to Abuja, the table of the president cannot be congested because, look, you have 68 items or so under the exclusive list. How can anybody deal with that? That is huge. That is a lot. Well, you can decentralize and let some go to the state for them to administer, and then you have more effectiveness.
Let me bring in Chief Wazirike. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the Constitution not being written by, it was written by, handed to us by the military, a military decree. But then we also do remember, if you go down memory lane, in 1998, we had this Constitution Debate Coordinating Committee headed by Justice Nikki Toby, assisted by Dr. Suleiman Kumo. And then at that time, he also said that they received about 405 memoranda from Nigerians at home and abroad. At the end of the day, while their function was to collate and coordinate the views and make recommendations, he then recommended at the time that the common denominator on the minds of Nigerians the world over is the 1979 Constitution. So he said that they recommended an adoption of that 1979 Constitution with relevant amendments from the 1995 draft Constitution. So why do they say it was handed to us by the military?
Well, if you look at that Constitution, it says who signed it. General Abdul Salami Abubakar, head of state of Nigeria. 1963 Constitution was the last one that was autochthonous in the sense that we, the people, metro representatives, made that Constitution. So the current Constitution, yes, amended by our own representatives, but was never made by the people. It was a military contraption. And it keeps showing. But because we say change is normal in life, we're supposed to change it as we go. Or, and this I prefer, have a brand new Constitution. At the National Conference in 2014, we made that recommendation. We didn't draft it because we made a recommendation. And it has since been presented to the National Assembly by President Jonathan in 2014 and 2015. And it is left for them to say, we are not going to consider this and say, brand new Constitution. Then we say, this is our Constitution. As it is, the military in their wisdom did some things. Let us, being civilians also, do our own things in the way we want to do, without looking at the military. In a simple language, like Prof said, why should somebody in Abuja decide how many local governments will be here?
Speaking of Abuja, Chief Wazirike, let me go to Abuja and to Mr. Shehu, Garba Shehu. Why will the federal government not consider the 2014 National Conference report?
Because it was not an inclusive conference. And you very well recall that the leaders of our own party, with the ACN and all of that, and the governors were missing from that conference. And a lot of criticism had been made, and about which the then administration was adamant. This conference was lopsided in terms of representation, ethnically, religiously, regionally, and they were insensitive about all of these things. And they want to force it down the throats of everyone. So that's why it's a problem.